welcome. Today I'm here rummaging through my pile of branchy pieces of wood, looking for two perfect pieces, or as near perfect as I can find, to make a garden dibber. Now originally I went to my outdoor wood pile and fished out what I thought were going to be these two perfect pieces of pine. I'm going to use this piece as the main dibbing shaft and cut a chunk off of this one to make a handle. It won't need to be this long. I shorten that, so I just have a little short handle and the garden dibber. And at first inspection, that looks absolutely perfect. And in fact, I'm sure it would be. But I've had a special request for this dibber, and the one they like needs to be long. And I managed to find a picture of the dibber they wanted, and it came up past this gentleman's knee. So my knee's pretty normal, and so my knee is here, and this piece of wood comes to there. And I know I'm going to get some waste at each end, so this piece of pine is not long enough. So as I say, rummaging through the wood pile, looking for something relatively straight and longer than this. I am limited by the length of my lathe, so I'm probably looking at something about the same length as the French rolling pin I made a couple of weeks ago. So I can still use this piece as its handle. It's a little bit curvy, but that's all right because I'm not going to use the full length. I only need a chunk of it. So that will mean I have a straighter piece of wood. Have a nice piece of staghorn, but we're a bit curvy, so that won't do. And I rather liked this other piece of pine. It's lots longer, so should be fine, but I don't know if you can see, I have a hole in it. So that's no good either.
That hole will have been where a pine cone was attached.
Finally, I've decided on this piece. Now I'm not certain what it is. I think it's willow, but it could be pine. It's really dry. It kind of has the same branch formation at the top here, a bit like the pine does, but it's very lightweight, and pine is usually a bit heavier even when it's dried out. So I'm not certain what this wood is, but it is long enough. We're quite a bit taller than the piece I thought I was going to use, which is good. One, this is a little bit too long for the lathe as it stands. I'm going to lose this end here because it all curves out, and I don't like this up here either. I'll bring you in close. We've got a ring of knobbly branchy bits sticking out of this log, so I want to work past them, but I've given it a measure, and I think just inside those knobbly bits to just inside this slope should give me a long enough piece to make the garden dibber. So it will fit the lathe, I'm going to cut some off of this end, but not past those knobbles I don't like. I'll use them as my waste wood for my tailstock centre to spike into, so I'm going to lose that from the finished project anyway, but I need to make it a little bit shorter so I'll fit the lathe. And this end, I'll put my spur centre in here to start the project, and I'll cut this down to size and shape to fit into the woodchuck. And this will become scrap because I'll have a hole in the end where my tailstock has been securing things. So I've found my wood, a piece to cut to size for a handle, and a piece for the main dibber. Some pine, definitely, and I think willow, but I'm not confident. It could also be pine, just an awful lot drier. Doesn't quite look yellowy enough for pine either. It's got a slightly white colour to it. slightly paler. Pine's usually quite yellow and dark, and this is very pale and white. So let's get these prepared and mounted on the lathe. I think it'll be a bit of a stop start again today as I measure things. And it doesn't fit at the moment. So let's take that little bit off here. Funny little piece. So just a slither off the end to take that sticky out bit away. So that'll be on the spur drive, and I'm still too long up here. About there would be good. There's actually some damage in the wood so I can see, so I'll cut it there. Oh, this is nice wood. There's the piece we've cut off the end. Hopefully it fits. Spur centre, yay, lots of space. Perfect. I'm expecting to waste this anyway, and that bit will go in the woodchuck. Maybe I'll put that bit in the spur drive instead. No, because I want to lose this piece of wood. It would be a better centre. Got another bit there. I don't know. I can't say I'm particularly happy with this. We'll see what happens. Spur drive in and hammer that down, but not on the table. Try that on the floor. I thought I would start with the handle for my dibber, but I've changed my mind and I'm going to start with the dibber. Even if my handle fails, I'll still have a dibber that can dib holes. And I've got this drill piece that will cut a hole into the handle so the dibber can sit into it. So eventually this end is going to be that size, which I can measure with my measurer. This thing has a special name, I'm sure. I've no idea what it is. So I can measure that. That's going to be the hole size. So I'll do that later. For now, I've got a Record Power SC3 woodchuck, which I shall use to secure this end as soon as possible. So that'll be my first task. Cut this bit down to fit into my chuck. So that's my SC3 chuck open to its maximum, and this plug of wood that's an offcut from a previous project, the fatter of these two circles actually fits with a bit of movement into my chuck. So if I carve this wood down to that size, that diameter, it should be perfect. So I'm going to open up my measurer to measure there and screw that in. So if I make my piece of wood fit my measurer, it will fit nicely into my woodchuck. So let's get ready. Apron, keep some of the dust off of me. Ear defenders, of course, it's noisy. Visor, which is all dusty. Dust off my visor. And my contentious gloves. Sorry folks, I like me gloves, I'm going to wear them. I'm going to start up here. Just before we start anything, on the slowest speed, Let's turn her on. That's pretty bouncy. Here, I think, is my big issue. Might take a little bit out of there first, just to see how we can balance this down a bit. Let's start with a roughing gouge. Oh, this is cracking. Nice. Crack any more of that off. There's a big gap there. It's practically touching there. I don't know. What's happening now? We're still bouncy, I think. Everywhere. Let's scoop this bark off.
I notice I'm not wearing my visor. I do spot it in just a moment and put it back on.
I don't have my mask on, that's terrible.
Just shows I don't really notice it when I'm wearing it, because I didn't notice when I wasn't wearing it.
What I should do is get that in the woodchuck. Give this a little sharpen. Pull the edge. There, look at this. That's terrible.
As I suspected, lots of stopping and starting as I work my way up and down this piece of wood, trying to level things out. As I rotate the wood, one side will be very close to my tool rest and the opposite side is miles away.
Definitely, I've got a big curve going on there. It's not good.
Time to get this top end rounded up, ready to secure into the woodchuck.
This is not a good shape to go in the woodchuck either. I need to cut the end off here flat. There's a bump here I want to get rid of. Let's get rid of that bump.
Checking with the calipers to see if I fit yet.
Nearly there.
Not quite, a little bit more.
We've got the parting tool and the skew chisel. I'm going to use a combination of those to flatten this out, because as you see I've got a slope going on and that won't be nice sitting in the chuck. I want to make that a little bit flush. Saw that off with the saw. Yes. So now I've cut that end off smooth. I think that fits the woodchuck.
Taking off the spur centre and putting the SC3 woodchuck onto the lathe.
My SC3 my Record Power SC3 woodchuck. Oh, let's turn it around to there. There we go. What do I do with its key? Its key into there. That there. Oh, here.
Woodchuck screwed up tight, tailstock nice and secure. Let's turn her on and give her a test.
So this is my thinnest bit, I think. So let's start here. I don't know, I've got a chunky bit here as well. Take some weight off this chunky bit. So hopefully I won't be swinging around so much. So this is super.
I'm sorry if that glaring sunshine is a bit bright. It's about to get even worse, and sadly I lose a big chunk of video. It's just unwatchable. It's lovely to see some sunshine. It seems to have been raining here for absolutely months. I think it's been one of the wettest winters ever. If it's not actually raining, everything's all drippy, wet and squelchy because it was just raining a moment ago. Now I've moved up to the tailstock end. I've adjusted the video to try and get rid of that sunshine, but it won't quite go out of shot. Here I'm working on a small section just to remove all of the bark coloration, and that will dictate the maximum thickness my dibber can possibly be.
Lower wood all the way through. Look like that's going to be the thickness of our dibber. Assuming we don't have any other funny bends happening up here.
Well, that's it folks, this sunshine's just got too much. I have to cut out a big chunk of video, so we'll jump to when it's gone away. Well, the sun's still here, but having worked my way up and down this piece of wood several times, we're finally starting to look quite straight. So there's hope for it yet. We may still make a dibber of it. I have to admit, I thought we might be getting a bit thin.
Let's thin that down. I'm feeling hopeful, and in the middle there I was taking so much wood off the sides, I thought this bit of wood might not be up to the job. This can taper, so I can have a fat stick here and try and keep that pretty sameish. From about here you can start tapering down gently. So let's just thin this out.
Now I'm working more on the final shape I want for this dibber. We're going to start with a long straight shaft at the top, and then the bottom third is tapering, not to a sharp point, just a lot narrower than the rest of the dibber.
don't know, quite like maybe here where I've got a bit of bark to get rid of.
Here's that sunshine back in shot. I'm going to lose another chunk of video. Oh, I don't know.
I think I'm ready for a bit of sandpaper. We've got a 120 to start us off. It's a little bit rough here. And then a 180 to polish it up a bit. And I don't know if I'm going to treat this with it. I might put a little bit of that oily polish on I used the other week, because it's going in the ground, it's going to get very wet. Shellac might be better, but then it'll get very worn. I'm going to wax it like I did the rolling pin. So I've got a little bit of wax polish, beeswax, carnauba wax and linseed oil. I'll put some of that on here, but I don't want it on this bit. I'm going to use a wood glue on here, so I need to keep this bit not waxed. So a bit of wax polish on this just to help protect it from the wet in the soil. And that'll be this bit done. Then I think I'm going to go and have some lunch and come back and do the handle, either in a minute or possibly tomorrow.
The Hoover nozzle works really well to suck away that dust as I sand, just to stop it all floating round the room. Next, to add a bit of that beeswax polish. It should help seal the wood against all the wet and mud it's going to encounter during its life.
What I want to do with this actually is mark inch markings along here. I'll do that. So every inch along the dibber, I'll come just past the inch to allow for the saw. Go there, there.
Having remembered I want to put inch markings along the length of this dibber, I'm using my pencil and rotating the wood by hand in the lathe to mark a circle for each inch point.
So although you would never actually plant anything a foot deep in the soil, or not with your garden dibber you wouldn't, the measurement's quite good to give you a distance when you're planting out. A distance between plants, which as you plant things out.
Having made my pencil marks, I've now switched the lathe back on and I'm going in with the skew chisel, just its little tippy point, to mark a groove in the wood where each of my inch points are. Next, I've wrapped a piece of sandpaper around my metal ruler and I'm pushing that against each of my inch markings just to sand it out nice and smooth. Finally in with my parting tool to start separating this dibber from the lathe. Then for that final cut, I'm moving in with the coping saw. I need to hold the saw upside down so the teeth are in the right direction to cut the wood nicely against the spinning lathe.
Stuck. Oh yes, I've still got this end to cut off. Well, here we have part one of the garden dibber. Now, this took a lot longer than I'd anticipated, especially having done the French rolling pin the other week. I thought I'd have been a bit quicker making this one, or at least the same length of time. It feels like it took longer. I think what slowed me down more than anything was my initial branch of wood was much more wavy than I'd anticipated before I put it on the lathe. So it took me a lot longer to straighten out those waves and get a nice straight dowel shaped piece of wood. But we do have a functioning garden dibber. This would work perfectly well now, but I want to give it a handle. So yes, you could dib things with it and put in your young seedlings, but it needs a handle. Where's my wood? I've got a short bit. So something like that for it to go into, not this long, probably about there would be fine. That'll be a handle piece. But I don't have time today. I've got other things that have to be done. So the handle's going to have to wait. And I don't know whether to upload this video this evening, which was the plan, and let you get it tomorrow and wait for part 2, or whether we all just wait a few days until I've made part 2 and I stick it together as one video. So we'll see. It might be bye for now, and we'll see you next time. Oh, it is a good length though. I'm pleased with that. Oh, how flexible can I... Oh, there's some flexibility for you. So it does reach... I'm going to show you. There. So it does reach to my knee. Oh, there's a good way. So I'm pleased with that. We've got the length I wanted. A very long garden dibber. Right, so it's not always necessary to have a garden dibber this long, I don't think. Maybe a foot would be plenty. But I had a specific request for a long garden dibber. So I'm making a long garden dibber. I'm going to say goodbye for now. And I'll see you as soon as possible, and we'll make the handle for this dibber. So bye for now, and we'll see you next time.
If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click that like button and let me know. Click subscribe, and YouTube will make sure you see my next video. So bye for now, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.